All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, don't go to bed yet. Okay. Don't go to bed yet. Wow. And Wink, that's quite a compliment, isn't it? You saying I'm the GOAT or something like that. Well, welcome to tonight's Fiveable review session, focusing on the Renaissance and Reformation. We are officially less than 1 week from the AP European History exam. I'm Tom Ritchie. I'm going to be leading this review session. My goodness, a lot of people are here, and the more the merrier, right? Because now we may be pushing a limit or something like that. But let Instagram know that we're here, okay? So I'm just going to let my Instagram audience real quick. Hey, if you're in AP Euro right now, make sure to go to Fiveable / oh, wait, no. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put that on my story. Fun. But we are, my goodness, okay. AP Euro students, make sure that if you're taking the AP Euro exam next week, join us right now. Fiveable.me/live for some AP Euro review on the Renaissance and the Reformation. See you there. All right, so Fiveable.me /live. Okay, so Fiveable.me/live, and we're going to get to questions real quick, okay. So let's go ahead and get that going. And Fiveable.me/live. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, I need to go ahead and tell, oh, come on, don't get a fat one, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be optimistic here. Now, what I want to do is let you know that this is going to be the last free Fiveable session that's on there. Now, I will be doing some other reviews on my YouTube channel, stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, but as far as Fiveable goes, this is the last review with Fiveable that I'm going to be leading that's going to be for free. Now, you want to check out Fiveable Plus, okay? This is a service that Fiveable offers. It is the paid side of this. We are going to be doing some cram sessions next week. Next Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be leading cram sessions. And you want to use the promo code Tom Ritchie, okay? All one word. Use the promo code Tom Ritchie if you decide to go with Fiveable Plus. Okay, so Fiveable Plus, you want to go in, get those cram sessions, okay? So the cram sessions are going to be great, but it's for Fiveable Plus members only. So Fiveable.me/plus. At some point, I might do like a little dance or something like that. But anyway, this session tonight, it's public, it's free. We've got over 500 people here. I tell you what, it is going to be lit, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, let's go ahead, and you know about Fiveable Plus. You know that I'm going to be doing cram sessions Monday and Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern, and those are going to be only for Fiveable Plus members, so go check that out. And let's see what we got here. Now, our focus area tonight is going to be on the Renaissance and Reformation. But the most asked questions, oh my Lord, there's nothing about the Renaissance and Reformation. All right, so my Lord, ladies and gentlemen, okay, I'm going through here, nothing about the Renaissance and Reformation. So with that, we might just be going into a general review. So let's go ahead and get into that. All right. So as far as I go, I'm going to go ahead and Cindy, I'm going to answer this question because I want to go ahead and address that so we don't get any more like it. I never try to predict the DBQ. I never try to predict the LEQs. I just figure every year the exam is like Russian roulette. You just go in there, and sometimes the exam's going to be good to my students, sometimes not. And there's really nothing you can do about it. Okay, so go in there and prepare. And the thing is, you don't want to be at the mercy of the exam. Just study hard. Okay, get your books out, study hard. Binge watch my videos, all of that kind of stuff. Get Fiveable Plus so you can join us for those cram sessions. I don't care what the DBQ topic is because my goal is for you to be prepared no matter what, Cindy. All right, so with that, I think that I'm just going to go ahead and give up on the whole Renaissance and Reformation thing, and we're just going to go in with some general Q&A. Okay, so we're going to select cram session number 1. So let's go ahead and go. Can I go over the revolutions of 1848? I most certainly can. I've got a 5-part video on my YouTube channel on the revolutions of 1848. So I consider myself, well, maybe YouTube considers me somewhat of an expert. Sorry, I'm in fast talking mode, even though I'm from the South and I'm normally pretty chill, but it's AP week, okay? So so as far as that goes, the revolutions of 1848 are kind of the end of the so-called age of Metternich. Now, in 1815, Clemens von Metternich and the conservative elites of Europe got together to try to put Europe back together after the Napoleonic Wars and the French Revolution. And so liberalism and nationalism, okay, liberalism and nationalism had really been the two biggest forces behind the French Revolution. And so the idea is that we need to make sure that we don't have any more of these liberal and nationalist movements. So they put together a number of things, you know, the Concert of Europe, where they get together and they say that if any of us is having a problem, the other ones will help. The Holy Alliance, Austria, Prussia, and Russia, they promise to each other to help out in the spirit of Christian charity if any of those governments is threatened by a revolution. And so they want, remember, conservatives want to champion traditional institutions. Remember that liberalism had been about secularism, about bringing in secularism so you don't have as much of a relationship between the church and the state. Conservatives wanted to preserve traditional institutions such as the church, and also the church's influence and the influence of the traditional aristocracy and monarchical governments. And so they are afraid of liberalism and nationalism. And remember that Metternich, just a second, I need to ask my wife to bring me some warm water because I've been broadcasting all evening. Okay, so need more warm water. Y'all are thinking maybe I'm talking about warm water records, right? Maybe I should rap for y'all sometime. We'll see. I think I'll do that during the cram sessions. So as far as that goes, that Metternich sets up this conservative order where there is repression of dissent, liberals, nationalists. Remember that if nationalism takes root in the Austrian Empire, no less than 10 distinct ethnic groups in the in Austria-Hungary, and so that could be a really bad thing for Austria-Hungary, at least the elites there. And so the revolutions of 1848, after decades of conservative repression, there are people that are kind of getting tired of it. And because besides, like between 1815 and 1848, you've got Greek independence, you've got the French Revolution of 1830, which basically replaced one monarchy with another. And then other than that, though, things were pretty stable. And so everything's kind of getting to a boiling point at this time. And so with things getting to that boiling point, you see that on the continent. Oh, good night. Oh, Caroline's. Yeah, there she is. Oh. All right, look how cute my kid is, everybody. All right. Thank you, Caroline. All right. So with that, now there are a couple of exceptions, because in Britain, there's no revolution of 1848 because the British Parliament had actually been responsive to some of the concerns of the people who were asking for reforms. And then in Russia, they were so repressive that that wasn't going to happen. That basically in the Decembrist revolt, the Russian government showed that no. Okay, so as far as the revolutions of 1848, what you want to note is that these were failed revolutions. So in France, the German states, and Italy, in all three of these places, liberals, nationalists, socialists, even some radical Democrats, people who wanted universal male suffrage and crazy stuff like that, they got together to briefly overthrow the conservative regimes that were in power in those places. But in all of those places, in France, the German states, and Italy, conservatives regained control because the people who were involved in these revolutions, they weren't able to unite together. If you think about it, 19th century classical liberals did not have a lot in common with socialists, to say the least. And so they were unable to build a governing coalition. Now, in France, most famously, Louis Napoleon was elected president in the wake of the revolutions of 1848. And a few years later, he proclaimed himself emperor. Okay, that apple did not fall very far from the tree, called himself Napoleon III. And so you have the Second French Empire. So what you want to understand is that these revolutions, while they were, it was a brief upheaval. Metternich fled to London for a while, but eventually he returned to Austria to live out the rest of his life because conservative order was restored in these places. So note that the revolutions of 1848 were, at the end of the day, failed revolutions. Okay, so as far as that, okay, that is just like we're getting into some really, really technical kind of stuff. Well, anyway, the causes and effects of the Cold War. Okay, so when we think about the Cold War, now World War II, you've got the Allies, you've got Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. I guess technically we could include France if we want to be nice, right? Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. And so after after World War II, of course, you have at the Yalta Conference, they decide that they are going to occupy Germany. So everybody will get their own sector. Okay, so everybody's going to get their own sector in this occupied area. Now, then also we want to note that Stalin, because he says that basically. Hitler invaded here. Let me go ahead and show you a map here. I think maps are good for this. That the Eastern Bloc, okay, Stalin asks for a sphere of influence. He says that, look, the Soviet Union needs a sphere of influence. And so we see here, now, there are countries like Ukraine, Belarus, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania that are actually part of the Soviet Union, okay? But at the same time, what happened there? Okay, so as far as that goes, that then the Eastern Bloc, these are countries like Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. These countries are going to basically be countries that are going to have puppet regimes installed there. And so, you have this, that essentially they're not part of the Soviet Union, but they're treated like that. And there is this idea that, and I think that the idea is valid, that Soviet communism is inherently aggressive, that there is an end game. Y'all see, y'all got the shirt here and all of that kind of stuff. Everybody's talking about that, right? There is an end game here for worldwide communism. And so what we see here is the United States, which really had not wanted to have all that much to do with Europe before World War II. Now the United States takes a leadership role, okay, because it looks like the Soviets. Now, Winston Churchill in 1946, in a speech at a commencement ceremony in the United States, Winston Churchill described what he called an iron curtain that had descended across Europe. And so this iron curtain that had descended across Europe, that, the sees that there is this line between Western democracies and Soviet influenced Eastern Europe. Okay. So as far as that goes, what we're looking at here is the Eastern Bloc. Now, then the Marshall Plan. Okay, so we want to think about the Marshall Plan. And the Marshall Plan, otherwise known as the European Recovery Plan. Okay, so the European Recovery Plan, and the United States of America gave a whole bunch of money to these Western European governments to make sure that they knew where their bread was buttered. If you want American money, don't become communists. Excuse me. That this is named after George Marshall, who was the United States Secretary of State. And so all of these Western European countries, and then Greece and Turkey as well, they were getting all kinds of money to help rebuild their economies, okay? And so France, notice, got a lot of money. France actually had a pretty viable communist movement after, a communist movement after the whatever you call it. So, I'm sorry, I got a text from my wife there asking what kind of warm water, just regular. Okay. My wife, it gets into she's like, do you want essential oils in your warm water or not? She gets really technical with this stuff. But France actually had a very viable communist party. And so there was, a threat scene there. Of course, you see Greece and Turkey. They're right there on the, on the border of the Eastern Bloc and the Soviet Union. And so the Marshall Plan, the United States is, giving this money. Now, another thing that happens is that the United States and Western European countries, that they form NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is, of course, expanded in the years since the Cold War, it even includes most of the Eastern Bloc and even some states that had been part of the Soviet Union. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, almost the entirety of the Eastern Bloc is today part of NATO. But during the Cold War, let's see, during the Cold War, let's see here if we're going to see, it's the United States and Canada and several, countries in Western Europe. What is this? Okay, so it's showing each individual member. I don't have time for this, people. I don't have time for this. I don't know what's going on here. But you know what? I'm just going to kind of get out of that. And, oh, I see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm trying to find like the actual like Cold War boundaries, but maybe if I look up the Warsaw Pact. Okay, so the Warsaw Pact, this was, basically the alliance between the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. And are they not going to give me a map? Come on, they're not going to give me a map, okay? And so as far as that, but we do see the NATO expansion here, that we see all of these countries that were brought into NATO later. These countries that are in blue were members of NATO during the Cold War, whereas the countries that are in green are countries that were brought in after the fall of communism. Okay, so after with the okay, well, thank you, and that's regular. Thank you so much, Caroline. All right, y'all take great care of me. I'm just trying to keep my voice, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your prize fighter, so y'all don't want me losing my voice before this thing happens. So trying to take care of myself. But the NATO, we do want to note, if you're thinking about post Cold War, the NATO expansion. So we see several countries brought into NATO, which of course the United States has an obligation to defend any of these countries. But NATO was formed in order to counter any threat of Soviet aggression. Now, at the same time as well, that we could get into the the Berlin Blockade. Okay, so that's another early Cold War event. So really, you've got the United States and its Western allies and the Soviet Union. Now, here's what things look like here. That the Soviets had their own sector, the Americans and the British had their sector too. Now, the Americans and the British wanted the French to have a sector, and Stalin's like, that's going to have to come out of your end because the French didn't really fight the war, right? And then the other part of this is that each of these powers had a part of Berlin. So the plan was that they are able to get, that you've got part of Berlin as well. And so this, you can see, is right in the middle of the Soviet sector, and it was only accessed by like a rail line for a while. And of course, that becomes kind of a sticking point of the Cold War. There you see the sectors have divided Berlin, and at one point, Stalin basically closed the land route, so they had to supply Berlin, West Berlin, by air, which they did. That was what was known as the Berlin Airlift. And so those are some of the causes, like some of the early events of the Cold War. But basically, this is a matter of the United States and the Soviet Union really kind of taking on these roles of superpowers. Okay, and actually, just to answer your question there, wow, Zev, thanks, thanks for nothing. So what I think Endgame, I hadn't seen Endgame. We'll just, Zev's, all in good fun, right? All in good fun. So as far as that goes, the effects of the Cold War, of course, that is bringing the biggest effect of the Cold War, I would say, is that the biggest thing in as far as the Cold War goes, is that the United States is taking on this role of a global leader. The President of the United States, we don't hear this as much anymore, but during the Cold War, the President of the United States was often called the leader of the free world. We don't hear that so much anymore because after the Cold War, you have the formation of the European Union, and you start to see that there is not as close of a relationship between the United States and Western Europe as existed during the Cold War. So with that, Sergey, hopefully we got some things going on. And Sergey, looks like you got a very Cold War name going over there. Okay, so what are some important treaties during this period. I'm not sure that I would necessarily get into, get into different, the various treaties. Now, one thing I would say that the most important treaty that comes to mind for AP Euro would be the Treaty of Versailles after World War I, because of course that is what sets the stage for World War II. Now, other treaties don't figure as much in there. Now, you know what? Number two would be the Treaty of Utrecht. Okay, the Treaty of Utrecht, or as the Dutch would say, Utrecht, would be another one that ended the War of the Spanish Succession. Now, the Treaty of Utrecht said that Louis XIV could put one of his relatives on the Spanish throne as long as the French and the Spanish thrones were never combined together. Okay. Now, in return, the British wanted Gibraltar, a place, in southern Spain where the British still control and they still have a naval base there. So the British are like, you know what? You can go ahead and have your Bourbon dynasty in Spain, whatever, but we want something that is going, so we want something that is going to help our Navy. And so you see really like the furthering dominance of the Royal Navy. But Louis XIV never fought another war after the War of the Spanish Succession. So I would say the Treaty of Versailles, which is after World War I, the Treaty of Utrecht, which followed the War of the Spanish Succession. The next would be the Treaty of Westphalia. Now, a lot of times I say Westphalia because I don't like to say fail, okay? Like failure is just not a good thing, especially this time of year, right? But the Treaty of Westphalia, that was what ended, of course, the 30 Years' War. And that expanded toleration in the Holy Roman Empire for Calvinists. Now, before what you had there in the Holy Roman Empire was each prince, because the Peace of Augsburg, was able to decide, will their principality be Lutheran or will it be Catholic? And so what is decided in the Treaty of Westphalia is that Calvinism will become another option. Now, another thing is, no matter what the prince decides, what we see in the Treaty of Westphalia is that we're going to see como se dice, the freedom of private worship. Okay, so the freedom of private worship. So even if your prince is a Lutheran and you are a Catholic, as long as you are not practicing Catholicism openly and creating a disturbance, that there should be freedom of private worship. Now, also we see in the Treaty of Westphalia that the power of the Holy Roman Emperor goes down to just about nothing. That person really becomes a figurehead. And so we see that this is not good for the Habsburgs, but also the French. What we're going to see is a period of French dominance after the Peace of Westphalia, which, if you think about the 30 Years' War, the French got involved in the 30 Years' War in order to the French got involved in the 30 Years' War because they wanted to undermine the Habsburgs. Remember, they got in on the side of the Protestants, and even though they were Catholic. And so the French were set up for dominance after that. And then we see the independence of the Netherlands and the Swiss Confederation. So dominance for France goes up, dominance for the Habsburgs goes down. And of course, Habsburg control over the Holy Roman Empire is over. The other thing about the Treaty of Westphalia is after the 30 Years' War, there is not going to be ever again in Europe a continental war whose fundamental basis is religion. Okay. And then let's see, how many treaties have I gone into? The next one I would say the Treaty of Maastricht, the Maastricht Treaty, or as the Dutch would say, Maastricht. Okay, because they got that sort of thing. I tell you, we got like over 600 people in here, as the Dutch would say, gezellig. All right, so it seems great here. You know what, Danny, you can follow me at Tom Ritchie on Insta. How about that? Same on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. Party Cabbage Squad, I know that guy. All right, are you from Trish? Are you from Tampa? Am I thinking right? So yes, as far as that, I would say, so the Maastricht Treaty was the treaty that created the European Union. So that's another one that I would say that that would be an important treaty. That was what, 92, 93, something like that. So as far as that, those would be some treaties that I would find that I would think would be very, very good. All right. So as far as that goes, we're going to go ahead with that. And the next one is the October Manifesto. Now, the October Manifesto is kind of confusing to me because the October, oh, Tejas is here. All right, Tejas has like been coming to these things when we had like, less than 50 in here. So as far as that goes, the October Manifesto, now don't get it confused with the October Revolution, because the October Revolution is in 1917 and it's a communist revolution. The October Manifesto is in 1905, and this was actually a czarist document. Shout out to Peninsula Catholic. This was a czarist document where Tsar Nicholas II was promising democratic, basically democratic reforms, that it was the end of the Russian autocracy. All right, so as far as that goes, it was the end of the Russian autocracy, and yeah, it looks like my friend Daniel might have actually just followed me on Instagram. So thank you so much, and you too, Catherine and Emily. So as far as that goes, the October Manifesto, 1905 revolution, and that's where Nicholas II promises that we will have a state Duma, we will have elements of constitutional monarchy. So that is, remember, the 1905 revolution was not a revolution that overthrew the Russian Tsar, but it was something that brought about a it didn't overthrow the Russian Tsar, but brought about some, some democratic reforms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, also, if you want to know what's going on with Fiveable, while you're on Instagram, go ahead and follow Think Fiveable. Think Fiveable, at Think Fiveable on Instagram. Those of you who are there, Audrey, make sure Think Fiveable. Danny's B, Think Fiveable. Okay, make sure to go follow Think Fiveable on Instagram and Twitter. Okay, make sure that happens. Okay, so as far as that, how were fascist and communist governments different? Okay, and this is the sort of thing, like, to what extent were they different? That's for you to decide. But there are certainly things that, fascist and communist had in common, what I refer to as right-wing socialism and left-wing socialism. That both of these are totalitarian governments that place what they believe to be the perceived interests of the group over the individual. They both have a leader that has a cult status around them, whether it's Hitler or Stalin. Hey there, Alejandro, or if it's Alejandro, okay? So as far as that goes, Hitler and Stalin, both of them had this cult status around them. We have a rejection of liberal democracy and representative government. So there are several things here, and of course, repression, when you think about concentration camps and the Gulag. And so there are a lot of things that are in conjunction. Also, that the state controls the economy. Now, when we look at how they're different, okay, the fascists on the right wing, so-called, and the Bolsheviks on the left wing, what we're looking at there, okay, is that, even though the government controls the economy in a fascist economy or a communist economy, that in a communist economy, the state actually owns the means of production. Whereas in a fascist economy, the means, I was about to say the means of production, the means of production are owned by individuals and corporations, but they have to do what the state says. Okay, it's a highly regulated economy, but you have, you have private ownership. Technically, now you tick off the regime, and that private ownership's gone, and so are you. Now, then you would get into nationalism, okay, that fascism is inherently nationalist, whereas communism is inherently internationalist and worker-oriented. So the fascists are nationalists, the communists are internationalists, okay? So those are a few things that you would see there. Also fascist, you have racial hatred versus with the communists, class hatred. Everybody, now they're both creating enemies. It's just a matter of what kind of enemy. Now, one more thing is that And that's something I think you can see in right wing and left wing when it comes to democracies, for example. That right wing dictatorships, fascist dictatorships, they presuppose that there is some sort of level of equality or inequality that's natural in the world. And then with communism, it is the goal of the government to try to rid society of equality. Which, if you think about Americans today, somebody who identifies as right wing, they are more likely to say that government programs to alleviate poverty aren't effective because they're not going to work. Whereas somebody who is left of center, they would say that we need to do what we can to reduce inequality and to eliminate poverty. And so with that, that's kind of when you think about the right wing and left wing and mentality in general. So hopefully that answered your question there. All right, what were Bismarck's goals and how did he achieve them? Okay, Josh, you are a rock star this evening. I tell you, you have had a hat trick, like 3 questions that got more than 50 votes. So let's hear it for Tejas. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure. Oh, y'all are looking at my SoundCloud there. I've got that Bismarck Rap. So as far as that goes. Now I hope Tejas has, or Tejas, I'm sorry, it's Tejas, right? It's not Tejas like Texas. I hope Tejas has Fiveable Plus, because I'm going to be doing the cram sessions next week. Fiveable.me/plus and put in Tom Ritchie to get a discount. Okay, so as far as that goes, you want to do that. Okay, so what are Bismarck's goals and how did he achieve them? Now, okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'm going to open that. Let's see. So Bismarck, German Unification Rap. Let's take a look here. Okay, so Bismarck Rap. Okay, so I'm going. You know what? I'm gonna take a look here. Okay, so let's see. I think that I've got the instrumental here. Y'all want me to rap? All right, y'all want me to rap? All right, let's see. Y'all want me to rap? All right, y'all want me to? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, homophobic slurs are not welcome. Let's keep that in mind. All right, so as far as that goes, all right, people are going to get kicked. I'm warning you. Okay. All right, so y'all ready? Okay, so let's see what we've got here. I've got that here. And I'm going to get this started. Okay, so a little warm water record, since y'all said y'all wanted to hear it. All right, now remember, Fiveable Plus, and if you buy Fiveable Plus, make sure to put Tom Ritchie as the code. It'll give you a little discount. Okay, so let's go ahead. Warm water records, Otto von Bismarck. It's like we got some German states out there that need to be unified. Blood and iron, more like blood and bars. Y'all listen to this. All right, here we go. I'm the Iron Chancellor, and I feel an obligation. Unify the German states under Prussian domination. A conservative at heart, but I've got a little trick. It's the politics of power. Call it real politics. An alliance with the liberals because I'm industry emphatic and they're secular. They like my culture cop against the Catholics. And the Social Democrats because I'm gonna put it bluntly that Germany will never be a socialist country. I've got old age pensions and some accident insurance. If you're hurt at work, I've got your back. Got my reassurance. Call it state socialism. Now the liberals want to hate, but without the working classes, we can't unify the state. The position of Prussia in Germany at this hour will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Great questions aren't decided by speeches or majorities. It's blood and iron. I'll use war to spread authority. With the Austrians as allies, we took Schleswig and Holstein, then declared war on Austria. The next step in my grand design. Prussia won in 7 weeks. Austria wasn't any match. Then it's time to provoke France with the hymns. Dispatch, monkey led a modern army armed with telegraphs and trains. France decisively defeated, gave up Alsace and Lorraine. After unifying Germany, then I really had some clout. Now it's 1890 and I'm out. All right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds a lot better if you go to my SoundCloud. If you go to my SoundCloud, it sounds a lot better. So go ahead, yeah, check out my SoundCloud. That rap's going to be there, and I'm planning on filming a music video. I'll put that out there. So, but it's a good study tool if you want to check out some warm water records. I've got a Louis XIV rap. We got some other things there. Okay, so as far as that goes, the rap goes into a lot of Bismarck's goals. So basically, what Bismarck is trying to do, but y'all definitely, one of my former students professionally recorded that rap, so it sounds really good on SoundCloud. Like it's really the best sounding recording I've ever done, even though Warm Water Records is kind of a joke. Mr. Roscoe. All right, so as far as that goes, what were Bismarck's goals? Okay, Bismarck wanted to unite Germany under Prussian dominance. Remember, there were two ideas that German nationalists had to unite Germany. One of them was Großdeutschland, big Germany, and that would include all German-speaking peoples, including the Austrians. Okay, yeah, y'all didn't know Tom Ritchie is a SoundCloud rapper, right? All right. So as far as that goes, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Ritchie, all one word if you get Fiveable plus. Unify the German state under Prussian domination. Unify the German states under Prussian domination. Now, the thing is, Bismarck wanted more of a small Germany, okay, that he didn't want Austria, because if Austria is involved, then there's a question over who is going to be dominant. And Bismarck wanted wanted Prussia to be dominant. He wanted Austria excluded. He wanted Prussia to be dominant. And so in 1848, I've got a series on German unification on my YouTube channel, that in 1848, the liberals and the nationalists, they convened the Frankfurt Parliament. Now, the Frankfurt Parliament was an attempt to unify Germany on the basis of liberal nationalism. Bismarck's like, no. The position of Prussia in Germany, as I say in the rap, I paraphrase him a little bit, but when you can actually make it meter and rhyme, it works better. The position of Prussia in Germany at this hour will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Great questions aren't decided by speeches or majorities. It's blood and iron. Expletive deleted. I'll use war to spread authority. Now, as far as that goes, that's very close to what he actually said in the speech. Okay, so as far as that goes, that's what he wants to do, and he'll do this through warfare. So there are three wars. First of all, there is the Schleswig War. That is where Bismarck recruits Austria. The Austrians and the Prussians attack Denmark. They take Schleswig and Holstein, and then after that, Bismarck launches a war against Austria, the Austro-Prussian War. This is part of his blood and iron strategy. And so in 7 weeks, Bismarck and the North German Confederation that he formed, they beat Austria. Okay, so they beat Austria, and then they annexed the southern, Catholic principalities. Now, they need to find a way to unite everyone. So Bismarck's like, what we need is a war with France. And so Bismarck actually engineers it with the Ems dispatch to where the French actually declare war on Germany. And so it makes it look like Germany's in a defensive war. And so then Germany defeats France. They declare the Franco-Prussian War. They declare the German Empire in the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, in Louis XIV's own palace. They declare this at Versailles. Okay, the first war is the Schleswig War. The second one, the Austro-Prussian War. The third one, the Franco-Prussian War. So listen to this though. And Mr. Bett's class has an interesting new video that I haven't watched yet, but I need to watch. How Bismarck started World War I. Y'all might want to take a look at that. So as far as that goes, they proclaimed the German Empire in the Hall of Mirrors. All right, so they go to the Hall of Mirrors to proclaim the German Empire. And so from there, after they proclaim the German Empire, then they assess reparations on France, and they say that France has to pay them reparations for the war, and then Germany annexes Alsace-Lorraine. Now, if you think about the Treaty of Versailles, what it did, it turned that on its head. That you see that France then is like, we're going to sign the treaty in Versailles. Remember proclaiming your stupid German Empire? And then they get reparations from the Germans, and they also take back Alsace-Lorraine. So with that, I hope that the rap is something that is, that is helpful to you. Okay, I hope the rap's something that's helpful to you. I've also got that 3-part series on my YouTube channel on German unification. So as far as that goes, Bismarck wanted to unite Germany under Prussian dominance. He achieved this through warfare, through blood and iron, rather than through liberal nationalism as had been tried before. All right. So as far as that, Kyle, that Cavour and Bismarck, when we're comparing Italian and German unification, that Italian and German unification both started off more ideological. So in Germany, it was like, let's use liberal nationalism. Whereas in Italy, Mazzini and the Young Italy movement, that they are, using, romantic nationalism. And in both cases, there was this idea that we're going to create some sort of unified nation in the revolutions of 1848. It failed. And so after the revolutions of 1848, Bismarck and Cavour, these are the two. Like, Cavour was the architect of Italian unification, was also a realpolitik guy. Now, where Bismarck had a very strong military behind him, Cavour did so by putting together alliances. And then finally, Garibaldi gets together with Cavour and they unify Italy. But Cavour and Bismarck are both into this realpolitik. It's not so much about ideology, but about unifying the country on the basis of power. Okay, and Zev, I don't know if John Green even knows who I am. He's never said anything to me. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, sorry to disappoint you on that, but you're certainly welcome to watch my videos. All right, now let's go ahead and I tell you what, I enjoy talking about existentialism. Okay, because the thing is, existentialism. All right, so this is coming about really Nietzsche and Kierkegaard and Nietzsche in the late 19th century are kind of pioneering this. Jean-Paul Sartre in the post-war period. Okay, Jean-Paul Sartre is the is the one that you start to see like, okay, this is post-war existentialism. Of course, Jean-Paul Sartre was also he was the life partner of Simone de Beauvoir, who wrote The Second Sex. Now, other systems, okay, previously most philosophical systems believed in they said that there's some sort of objective truth, okay, that truth is something to be pursued, that philosophy, the point of philosophy is the pursuit of truth. And existentialism is like, what is truth? Does truth even exist? Is there even such thing as objective truth? And so, the whole idea is that it's based on a person's perspective, that truth is relative. Okay, truth is something that is relative. It is subjective, that everything in life is subjective. And so instead of pursuing absolute truth, we need to be thinking in terms of existence. So one of the things about existentialism is this idea that existence precedes essence, okay, that existence comes before everything else, and that truth is something that is subjective. So one of the things that Jean-Paul Sartre, when he was speaking after World War II, he said that, okay, so a student of mine during the war was wondering, Jillian, good to see you here. Jillian's one of our regulars. And so as far as that goes, that somebody comes to Jean-Paul Sartre and says that, I've got a choice to make. I can either collaborate with the Nazis and save my grandmother, okay, make sure that I can take care of my grandmother, of my ailing grandmother, or I can join the resistance and my grandmother may die. Nobody's going to be taking care of her. And so he asked Jean-Paul Sartre, like, what should I do? And Jean-Paul Sartre is like, you have to make that decision. There is not a way in which I can tell you, okay? There's not a way in which I can tell you what to do in this case, because you have to decide, okay? Brianna, whatever it is there, but you have to decide what's best, because if you think about it, I mean, you have to live with your actions, okay? That basically you are the sum of your acts, that every, in life, every man draws his own portrait, apart from which there is nothing, okay? So, this is basically about making yourself, okay? Mr. Brotherton is so lit. Now, is he lit? What does it mean to be lit? He decides that he's lit. We've given him that subjective value. So he does not have the objective value of being lit. He is lit because, I mean, we've decided that he's lit. And so that is existentialism, that we're giving up the pursuit of objective truth, and we're going into the realm of subjectivity, and we are keeping that going. Okay, so as far as that goes, we got that. I tell you what, y'all chatters, y'all have got some pretty funny stuff here. All right, so as far as that goes, that existentialism is this philosophical movement that rejects the idea of objective truth. Nietzsche, Sartre, you probably won't run into Kierkegaard here, and also Simone de Beauvoir, who you would have existentialist feminism with her publication of The Second Sex. Okay, I like my shirt too. All right, so let's see some things here. Okay, so some of y'all are okay. So as far as that goes, the Kulaks. Okay, the Kulaks. These were farmers, like landowning peasants. Now, a lot of times when we think of the word peasants, we think of maybe somebody who is like on a manor in the Middle Ages. But a peasant is really anybody who is a rural farmer. And there were a lot of the Kulaks were peasants who were, landowners. And this means, I think the word means in Russian, I think it means fists, okay? Because what happened, excuse me, was that Stalin was trying to characterize the kulaks. These are people who are greedy. These are people who are holding things in their fists. These are people who are refusing to basically join the whole collectivization effort. That they were unwilling to voluntarily go into collective agriculture. It's like, look, I've got my land here, and so the kulaks. Stalin was, went after them, and basically, you have what's called in Ukraine Holodomor, which was a forced famine that Stalin would have people that went in and they took all of the grain and they sent it elsewhere, and so you've got millions of people in Ukraine that starved, and so the dekulakization. This is where where Stalin basically just got rid of them. And so that's what's going on there, that he's trying to get, he's trying to collectivize agriculture. And these landowners are people who were, who were not on board with it. Okay, so as far as that goes, all right, let's take a look. Let's take a look here. All right, so the Treaty of, well, these things keep moving. Okay, I'm about to answer a question, then all of a sudden, like, bam. Okay, so the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. This was the treaty signed between Germany and the Soviet Union. Okay, so basically the Russian Revolution happened, and what Lenin wanted to do. Han, I've got a video on the War of the Spanish Succession. I would recommend going to my YouTube channel and checking that out. Okay, so the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, when Lenin took over the Soviet Union, he decided that we don't want to fight in this war. We want to consolidate our revolution here. And so what happened was he was willing to give away land, like what had been part of Russia, that he gives this land away. A lot of that stuff will later be the Eastern Bloc, that they yield this land in order to get out of World War I. Now, this land that was given up in that treaty after Germany's defeated, it becomes the basis for Woodrow Wilson's experiments with self-determination of peoples. But yes, that is the treaty that took the Soviet Union out of World War I. All right. So going from that, let's see. Gosh, y'all have got just tons of questions. All right, we've got about 10 more minutes, and let's see. So some of the consequences of industrialization. Now, one thing that I want to focus on a little bit, at least, is the positive consequences. So, for example, that you've got positive consequences of industrialization, which would include that there were more things available, and those things were cheaper. All right. So even though you had a lot of filthy, dirty cities, especially during the first Industrial Revolution, that the entire world is. I mean, you've got massive economic growth. Okay, you've got massive economic growth. Now we also want to, oh, Miss Delbert, we've got folks from New Orleans. She sent me a king cake one year, and she also tipped me. She gave me some money during my Breakfast with Richie broadcast last year, and I was really thankful for that. So please say hello to Miss Delbert for me. She's great. All right. So with that, a lot of economic growth, a lot more urbanization. Now, we also want to note the second industrial revolution, where you see, the advent of railroads, the internal combustion engine, where, the world just gets a lot more connected. Okay, so, those are some things there that I would put there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this session will come to a close soon. Okay, the session will come to a close soon. And we want to make sure that y'all don't miss out on Fiveable Plus. Fiveable.me/plus. Okay, so Fiveable.me/plus, and make sure that you're looking into that. Okay. So what is Chartism? Okay, Chartism was a movement. It was a working class movement in Britain in the 1830s and 1840s. And so there was a reform act in the 1830s that expanded suffrage, and it got rid of the rotten boroughs, but it didn't expand suffrage to the working class. It expanded suffrage to people who owned less property, or different types of property, like the factory owners who didn't own a lot of land, but they owned industrial property. And so what happens here is the vast majority of men in Britain still could not vote after the Reform Act of 1832. And so the Chartists, they rallied around 6 points, okay? That the Chartists, they wanted a secret ballot. They wanted universal suffrage for all men. They wanted pay for members of Parliament and annual elections for Parliament. Now, the reason for this, why do they want pay? Now, what happened was at that time, Parliament was, was something that you volunteered for. Okay, so you volunteered to be in Parliament. Well, the only people that could do that were people who were independently wealthy. And so it was engineered so that working people could never be in Parliament because they couldn't afford to. So pay for members of Parliament. Then they wanted annual elections of Parliament. Now, that's the one thing that's never happened that the Chartists asked for, that annual elections, that Parliament is still subject to election only every 5 years. The reason they wanted annual elections, the goal of the Chartists was to have a pure democracy, really kind of like, if any of you've taken U.S. history already, this is the same time that Jacksonian democracy was catching on in the United States, and they wanted the same sort of thing, like universal male suffrage, and they wanted to take control of the government from the upper classes and put it into the hands of the working classes. And now, to the extent that Chartism was a socialist movement, you can't really necessarily characterize it as that, but I'm sure that there were some socialist aims there. But as far as that goes, Chartism was an attempt at reform. Now, the Parliament never accepted the Chartist petitions. They ignored them, but they did do some other things, like y'all may be familiar with the Mines Act, the 10-Hour Act, the repeal of the Corn Laws. So by the time the revolutions of 1848 came around, Chartism was something, it didn't lead to a revolutionary movement in Britain because the Parliament had already been somewhat responsive. And I go into this, I've actually got a video on the Chartists and the Corn Laws and the Reform Act of 1832 that you might want to check out on my YouTube channel. All right, and so as far as that goes, let's see here. All right, let's see. All right, let's see what's on top here. Okay, let's see. Gosh, Russian Revolution questions. Oh, I tell you what, Sajeev, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the things that I consider most important to know. Okay, how many kings, how many laws, how many faiths? Like if somebody can't tell me one king, one law, one faith, then I'm like, hey, who are you? Okay, so, that's the main thing. If somebody can't tell me one king, one law, one faith, then why are you even here? So that would be something that's very important. Okay, am I going live on YouTube tomorrow night? That is the plan. But what we really want to focus on is I'm going to be going live live with Fiveable on Monday and Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So prime time. The thing is that, okay, prime time next week, the 2 nights before the exam, I'm going to be broadcasting with Fiveable. Okay, so prime time at those times. So we want to make sure, yeah, you can even say it in French, Florence, so you're on your way. So you want to know that's going on fiveable.me/plus, okay? And so top few things: one king, one law, one faith, Peter the Great, Westernization. I think that's great. Humanism, okay, that when we think about Renaissance humanism, Greek, Roman, and biblical literature, the Northern Renaissance being a bit more Christian oriented and socially oriented than the Italian Renaissance, which was by comparison more individualistic and secular. Renaissance art, that's something that is based on balance and linear perspective. We've got this kind of 3D thing going on there, and of course the use of bright colors and classical themes. And remember, when we talk about classical themes, we're talking about Greek, Roman, and biblical literature. Okay, so as far as that, ladies and gentlemen, but I will be, I will be here with Fiveable on Monday and Tuesday, and of course, y'all be able to see the other things I'm doing outside of this broadcast. But I do want to make sure that while I'm here, that I'm promoting Fiveable, okay, because I'm here with Fiveable right now. So as far as that goes, we've got that. Now, the rise of nationalism, I would say, with the French Revolution, like before the French Revolution, Tejas, what we're looking at is that your regionalism. Like if you think about it, in the Middle Ages, the thing was feudalism, and so going from a feudal kind of society where everything's kind of localized, but by the time we get to the French Revolution, the French start to see, like, what about France as a nation? And not just some kind of patchwork quilt where, we've got all of these local customs and local laws. Like there weren't even local laws across France. And so, people are starting to feel like, of course, remember that the main ingredient of nationalism is shared language, okay? Shared language, that everybody speaks the same language. So people who speak French, that we're establishing this nation. And that's what we're seeing with the unification movements as well, that Italy, we've got all of these people who speak the same language where they're divided by borders. Why? Germany, same thing. Now, of course, in Austria, nationalism's not going to build something, it's going to destroy, because you've got these 10 different ethnic groups, each with all of their different languages and all of that kind of stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with some more Fiveable cram sessions on Monday and Tuesday. Now, remember, if you want to be a part of those, and they've just reduced the price, they've got some really good deals going on right now. So if you want to do this review again, and I think that it's a pretty good deal going right now, fiveable.me. Okay, so fiveable.me/plus. Okay, and that'll get you out there. And then put in Tom Ritchie for a discount. Coupon code Tom Ritchie, all one word. So I'm going to be back. J Money, okay, and I'll even like dance and like drink out of the jug and all of that kind of stuff while y'all go buy Fiveable Plus, so y'all can come in on the cram session. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, so as far as that goes, let's go ahead and you're welcome, Elizabeth. And, we've got plenty of time. Now, actually, we don't have plenty of time. We got less than a week. But I will be here. I will be other places. But most notably, I will be here Monday and Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. Fiveable Plus members only. So go ahead and hopefully I'll see you. And ladies and gentlemen, it is